Startup ecosystem, what the idea is that you have to learn how to pitch your idea clearly and concisely. And once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, again, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Startup on the Blocks. We're glad to have you here. So we got a great show planned for you tonight. Derrick is coming on to help us get this show on the road tonight. So I'm out traveling this week, but I'm always happy to be here to share some best practices with founders. And I'll start off. Okay, let's see here. We haven't Derrick. He'll be on. He was just backstage a minute ago, so hopefully he'll be back here, and we can get him on. But he's had a great career, and he's going to share some wisdom with you from his experiences. And I want to give a big shout out to our partners and sponsors and etc. This week we were up in Washington, D.C. Attending the Prosperity Summit. It was really fantastic. And one of the founders went home with a check for $100,000 and pitched less than 5 minutes. And that's a pretty nice sum to win. And pitch competitions are going on all the time, and it's a great way to raise funding for your startup. Hey, Derrick, how's it going?
Fine. How are you doing?
Great. Glad to have you here. We were just giving a big shout out to some of our sponsors and
excellent
and partners and stuff, and talking about the Prosperity conference that my wife and I were attending up in DC. And they kicked off with $100,000 pitch competition. So it's nice to walk home with take away that kind of funding. And I tell founders all the time, these pitch competitions and these opportunities to get funding to help you with your idea, with your startup, they're very abundant. And so it's just a matter of being curious and get involved in the startup ecosystem to kind of understand what's going on, because it's really huge and there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. Yeah. So let's see here. Definitely glad to have you here, Derrick. And these are some of our sponsors that help us pay the bills and fund our demo days and pitch competitions. I guess in the last 30 days, we've 6 of our founders have won $1,000 each to kind of help them with their startup. So there's some small stuff out there like what we do, and there's also a bunch of big stuff. Had you seen much of what's going on in the startup world, Derrick? You're muted there. Yeah.
I apologize. Can you hear me now?
No, yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
I see that it's expanded exponentially in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It was going strong into COVID, and there was a slight lapse, and then right after COVID, it's been taking off it's just been taking off in every direction.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
emphasis on AI,
for
but
sure.
yeah, for sure. But it's a lot of original ideas, things I'd never heard of before, and it's kind
Yeah,
of interesting to see. But some of those actually are helpful because they were generated by AI, and that helps
right.
even better. So you see a lot of that, a lot more than before. So
Yeah, yeah. I've been out here for since I retired from the Air Force Research Lab um, back in 2012, and I was kind of shocked at the amount of activity that that's going on out here and in the startup world. And but I think once you tune into it, you'll see there's no shortage of opportunities to participate in programs. Uh, it could be anywhere from training programs that help you learn the ropes of being in a startup, or it could be uh, a pitch competition, or it could be applying for a grant. It could be almost anything. And but you have to get involved and learn how to speak the language of all this activity that's going on out here.
yeah,
For sure, yeah, yeah. So what we do is we actually try to get founders ready to participate in these. In So when they fill out an application to get in a program or applying for a pitch competition, just knowing how to pitch your business model. And the company, a startup that won the thing at the Prosperity Summit, I heard that she had won two major pitch competitions just recently, and so she's literally funding the growth of her startup through pitch competitions. And so it's really, but it's all about knowing how to pitch, how you make money with your with your business model, and then also you use that same kind of approach when you're trying to recruit people to help you, like co-founders and partners. Yeah, and so, but you have to understand all this startup stuff, and that's where we come in. We help founders uh, learn the stuff that unlocks the resources in the ecosystem. And if you got an idea and you want to learn how to get that idea off the ground, that's exactly what we're here for. And we help you get the knowledge through our LeanStack uh, uh, .com platform. Tells you all you need to do and know how to design a scalable business model. Helps walk you through the milestones to get your thing launched, or even if you're trying to grow what you've already launched. It has all the methodologies on how to do that. The startup science. It's a program that's got all training materials. It's got database of all the pitch competitions, all the grants, all the diluted capital, non-diluted capital. Yeah, it's just a really amazing opportunity out there. And we also just let people have access to through our BILF IP Launchpad, access to get trademarks and patents and stuff. So you can get that on our Get Started page at Kakua Institute. So Derrick, that's what we're all about. So let's you and I chat a little bit and see what you're going on your side. Yeah. So you there, Derrick?
I'm
Oh,
right
you
here. I just said I can
okay?
mute.
Good, good.
So
Alrighty. So like you've had a distinguished career and in the military and out in industry, and so but why don't you back up and tell us a little bit about how your career path and just how you got started and everything.
I have a I would say I was pretty much a zigzag pattern. I
Okay.
was from college. I got a commission in the United States Army, and I went
Okay.
on to do my first 4 years in the Army. Stationed in Korea, did Desert Storm, and then came back. But
Wow.
after the fifth, as I approached the 5th year, I just didn't see it anymore. I just didn't feel it, and
Mm-hmm.
so it was a mutual decision between the government and me to leave because they were
Uh-huh.
laying off a lot of officers and such. They
Yeah.
gone through a reduction in force, and I was okay with it. But I was in
Yeah.
Texas at the time, and I
Uh-huh.
had a skill set I developed in the Army. I knew about computers. I was self-taught on computers and on computer software. And so I was
Yes.
able to get a job in various tech companies from that point on for about 5 years. And I wound up working for Texas Instruments, Applied
Wow. Okay.
Materials, and then went on finally to work at Dell Computers at that time, going from a Tesla analyst to a e-commerce deployment manager, where I went through the first set of e-commerce deployment platforms ever created in the country.
Wow, man, that's very fantastic.
Yeah, it was one of the most, that was one of the best jobs that I had. I worked for a guy who was super smart, who taught me, and he was my mentor through the process until the dot-com bubble burst. And then, we all got laid off in droves. But from that short experience, I learned a lot about industries and how to start up a business and then what not to do. At that time, during the dot-com growth in the early 2000s, late
Yeah.
90s, there was a common flaw that existed in business. It's like people had an idea, people just gave them tons of cash to formulate a business, but there wasn't a real business model behind it, and it wasn't a sustainable business model. So I would see companies. So I worked with my friend's software training company at that time, and we watched on the street we're in as many companies stood up and many companies came apart. We watched Furniture.com, Dr. Coop.com, anything with a .com behind it was on that street. And I swear to you, within a year, all of them were gone from inception and starting. But they've been given millions and millions of dollars.
Yes.
But what I found, and I learned it while I was at Dell, was that you had to have a sustainable business model that was beyond just the paper napkin version of, had to build in a structure to align with, and where do you make the money, and then how do you prove the long-term money growth over a period of time. And I learned that by working in that industry, by working with several companies, because my clients were all Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 companies who wanted to do business with our organization in a business environment. And so watching that structure, how I made decisions about who to work with. And I thought I was just at a junior level, but I was making multi-million-dollar decisions about whether I was going to work with you or not.
Yeah.
But it had to be proven against a business model that was sustainable. So imagine me working with a structured company, and then down the street after leaving, I'm going and watching all these .com companies grow.
Yeah.
At the same time, who didn't have a structured business model, but had millions of dollars of resources to work with.
Yes.
We're just throwing it against the wall to see what sticks.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, there was a lesson to learn there pretty quickly about how it doesn't work and why you shouldn't do certain things.
Yes.
But after that, 9/11 came along, and I went back into the business. So I came from, got pulled back in, and was going to stay longer. But I still kept that technology connection with my friends that I knew in Austin and other places.
Yeah.
So, but I knew the ripple effect because I'd seen it. And so what I learned through that is something we're going to talk about today is why you adopt strategies and why you need to consider in your own business model what success looks like. Right. Because you got to know what it looks like for the client before you agree to work with the client.
Okay.
Because you may be the worst solution for them at that time. And that may drive them in a very difficult direction.
Yes.
So you jump ahead through the process as I go through, and I do my work, and I do one of my assignments when I worked in the Army. I was head of strategic civilian partnerships for public and private companies in Europe. And so I would find ways to work with the civilian companies to work with the U.S. military, so they didn't have to use military resources. Okay. Because a lot of solutions didn't require a military solution; they required an actual commercial solution to improve their economic or improve their societal structures. So I did business with companies like a major wireless company to help us work an infrastructure for one country that would impact the entire region. We didn't realize that until we found the problem set. So from that, I learned, again, you got to know what the end state for the client's going to be and what the right application, the capabilities have to be against that particular asset, not just for your financial outcome, but is that the right solution that addresses the long-term problem, not the short-term gain?
Gotcha.
Right. So, So when I look at the larger scope of how I learned those lessons in my early years, and I used those lessons in my military career. When I left, I was like, what am I going to do next? I went on and I said, well, I need to learn about cloud technology because that's what I really want to be a part of. And so I went to work in Amazon Web Services, and I was there for 4 years. And through that process, I bring some of the lessons we're going to talk about today when that time comes. But working with those companies, the same principles still applied.
Yes.
But it was now the inverse. Now the inverse of that is what's best for the client, not necessarily what's best for you. And you got to be smart enough to know when yes is not the right answer. You got to know when no is the best answer so that you can get to a long-term yes. If there's anything I learned about watching the country go through 2 dot-com bursts and then a real estate crash and then economic growth, then COVID was what is the right answer on both ends of the spectrum? And your yes, because I want to make the sale, may not be the right answer. It may be the right answer, maybe no, because you need them to understand what their outcome is going to be for them. And so I had a chance to work with several big companies and several small companies, but a lot of big companies I thought would have great infrastructure solution sets or programming in place.
Wow.
But I found there were common things, and we're going to talk about some of those as we go through.
Okay, good.
So,
yeah. So I didn't realize you had that kind of a unique experience, in Texas. So, because normally you don't think about Texas as getting all that great experience, but you think about San Francisco, Silicon Valley. You don't think about getting that experience here in Texas. But because like you said, you start off with a company like Texas Instrument, and that had to be pretty interesting because it was a traditional type hardware and company, and then to work with Dell in the early days, that's pretty fantastic too. And so what's interesting now, like what you said, is when you like in a .com, you say you saw this throwing money after these companies, and now you see the same thing with the AI companies, and especially the large language model companies, raising, billions of dollars as opposed to millions of dollars. It's like, it's like, and people, a lot of founders right now are struggling, but the deal is there's plenty of founders that are raising revenue. So what's the secret? What's between those two type of entities? And so, but also, I guess still some of these companies may be throwing money up against the wall to see what sticks, or still may be using that same strategy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think one of the common themes is you got to chase the market, right?
Yeah.
And it's a false theme, really, when you do the math.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm bold enough to say that because I've seen what happens in the outstate, and you'll see it again too, right? So you watch now, there's a peak toward Gen AI and generating AI ML solutions, right?
Yeah.
And some of those are really on track, and they're the ones you want to have. And then some of those are just a nice guess that it might end up something. And maybe the ROI will come out on the back end. But you have to be smart enough to say, what is my long-term strategy, and why do I need to do this? And why do I need to invest billions of dollars, or in some cases, millions to billions of dollars into something that I'm not really sure of? And like I said, I'll walk through some of that, some of the lessons I've learned in the past 5 years, and then watching it as it matures now, because it is maturing. It's maturing quicker than people think. But for every startup, there's a failure. And for every failure, there's another one. And there's another startup. Somebody sticks out of the top 10%. Somebody's going to stick. Or my favorite part is some people come out of recovery, and they just race past you. Let's just face it. I mean, one of the common examples is when you look at Intel versus NVIDIA. What was NVIDIA 20 years ago?
Yeah.
NVIDIA was a video card company. That's what it did. Their chipset was basically based on video cards. Now they've become the premier AI platform utilizer of chips on a board or boardless, depending on which operation you go through. So they've exceeded the king, which was Intel, and now you have NVIDIA. So what happened 2 weeks ago? When NVIDIA decided to invest in Intel, which was its parent company 25 years ago. So,
I've seen strange things going on now.
So
that's really neat. And I always thought, that NVIDIA did a better job marketing than Intel, and Intel was a little bit too conservative.
Well, there's a lot of that self-inflicted from eons of competition with another company,
Yeah,
another chip company or computer
yeah,
company.
yeah.
Um, but
AMD.
it's also against also who's your partner. And now we're talking about some of that too, is what partner relationships that you make, because they made a significant level of partnerships along with Microsoft and the other computer companies.
Yeah,
But that wasn't a service-based concept. You do need chips to
yeah,
execute, but now
yeah,
the services have exceeded the chip capability.
yeah. That's exactly
So,
right.
so you know, but that was all predictable, to be honest with you. To be
Hmm.
100% honest, a lot of things are predictable, and they still are. So for
Yeah,
young entrepreneurs or people that are just starting out, don't think where you are today is not something that's going to be a revelation for tomorrow. It's just that's not how the math works.
hmm
But
yeah. And what I like about what you've been saying is you emphasize the business model early on, and that's the foundation of what we teach founders through the Lean Stack program. But it's hard to get founders to see sometimes the importance of that, and to being able to kind of predict your growth and understand why you're growing. And it's all numbers and it's all math. And so once you learn how to do it and realize you need to learn how to do it, it makes all the difference in the world. And it's everything is just so related to everything else, and it's like magic when you finally see it. Yeah.
right, and one of the other parts that the lessons I've learned is the emotional commitment. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So venture capitalists or investors base some of the emotion both on logic and then emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So you can never you try to balance out the emotional context of the decision making cycle with the
Yeah.
financial outcomes and investment, right? But there's
Mm-hmm.
always an emotional component. And that's the same thing with the partner you may work with or the company you're trying to do business with. They're making both, but you don't know
Mm-hmm.
the emotional context of the people that you're dealing with until they reveal it to you. And
Right.
so it's always it's it's a hard lesson I learned in the last 4 years, because a lot of things were based upon how do we survive COVID. And then it was like, well, this is not different than things I've done in conflict. So we must remove the emotional part and then focus on the long term. Where do I want to be at the end of all of this?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's where you see a lot more investments going on, is a lot of things are related to emotional context and then financial.
Okay.
I got,
Okay.
yeah, I got to get in now. I got to do it now.
Yeah.
Really? Why? Tell me why you got to do this now, because I
Mm-hmm.
need to know why you need to do that thing now that you're not
Mm-hmm.
really sure about. Because
Yeah.
and you've seen it. Some companies that make billions of dollars of investments and then that's gone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I see just as fast as I see these companies get funded, I see a certain percentage of them that spend all their money and are gone. But it's like you say, if you're not looking at the long term of what your company is trying to startup is trying to do, you will get lost in all this stuff and all the hype. And it's definitely hard when you see the amount of money that's being thrown out there behind some of these ideas. Yeah, yeah. So I'm definitely excited about that, and I think we're fortunate to have you on here with having that diverse background, and over the last 25 years. Yeah, so that's pretty great. So like your military, stuff, kind of parlay right into your civilian career, like a lot of common threads there.
I'd say yes, because I was a artillery officer for the first 4 years,
Okay.
but the second part of my career, when I retired as a colonel, I was a civil affairs officer, and that was working with countries and organizations to impact societal growth and societal infrastructures, whether it be
Yeah.
education, health, security, or economics. Some way
Yeah.
to shore up a nation so we don't have to have military activity, and but using the military resources with private resources to make
Yeah.
life better for those countries that are both developing and growing. And so
Yeah.
I did a lot of that in Europe. I got to understand
Gotcha.
how it applies in all parts of the world, but the principles are pretty much the same. So
Yes.
I was able to take my previous experience of business analysis and structure when I worked in private industry, use that in the military, and then come out of um, my foreign relations and diplomatic skill sets in military, and now apply that in industry and
Wow.
look at why things happen, why things
Yeah.
break down, and how do you improve those things and do the reverse math of those.
Oh wow. Yeah. So yeah. So I didn't realize you had also had a civil affairs background. In my last unit I was in as the communications officer in the Army was the civil affairs unit. So yeah, that's you don't run into too
Yeah,
many
all
people
world.
with that background. Yeah, so that's pretty fantastic. But I think in the military, especially being an officer, you learn these leadership skills, and it sounds like that sort of played a big impact, in your career.
It did because I got exposed to levels I never thought I'd be exposed to before,
Hmm.
and I was able to grow from my corporate positions through my military cycles into my geopolitical positions into back into corporate,
Hmm.
and to be able to advance that level of thinking all the way through and sustain it, but understand the genesis and then understand the impacts of having that background, what it meant to and how to speak to the problem set, and then
Hmm.
being able to provide tangible, useful solutions for a given environment or a given situation, as opposed to, what do we do next? Because the goal was to remove the question marks and be able to answer the questions.
Yeah. So, like, well, thinking about this, so kind of what do you think? So, you've seen a lot of successful companies, and you've seen a lot of, companies that just threw money up against the wall and it didn't work out. But so, would you kind of like restate what makes the difference between a successful startup, maybe, and one that's not successful?
I would say that it's really a variety of things. And
Hmm.
one of those is drive. You got to have the drive to stay in the fight when it doesn't look like it's working for you.
Yeah.
Um, but that comes from building a effective network of support that says
Okay.
your idea makes sense.
Yes.
So if you're trying to be the next Beanie Baby, okay, great. But what's driving that decision making process, and what's your competition look like?
Yeah.
And sometimes the competition doesn't matter. Sometimes it is the emotional context of society that drives their interest,
The
right?
timing. Yeah.
So but you got to be able to fight through the vacuum and come back
Hmm.
with a tangible approach to how to address that. And that does take a lot of energy and drive and sustainability to make that happen. You got to have a vision towards sustainability.
Yeah.
If I do this, where am I taking it? Where do I
Yeah.
want to go? Because I can sell, if you can sell hair care products, okay, great. But what's the next phase of that?
Yeah.
Not just that product, it's the next phase of that. Is it a vertical growth where it's hair care products and then actual hair, or changing the industry to match other people's industries to match what their gap may be? Or is it X, whatever X may be?
Yeah. So
Sometimes it, sometimes it is a niche thing and you want the niche to work.
yeah.
But I think you got to have a vision beyond where you are today to
Yeah.
say, because you're one thing. If it can be duplicated by somebody else overnight,
Yeah.
you ain't
Hmm.
got a thing. You got just one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right, and that's part of your business model. But so did you become aware of how companies, startups learn about this business modeling, um, type type thing? Because it's not a common term that you hear. You hear about business plans, but you don't hear specifically, about a business model that actually, how that works, or how they. I was just curious. Did you, when you see these different companies and they have, some of them have great business models, where do you think they learn that at? That's kind of, I'm just a
Oh,
little curious.
I think it's pain. To be honest,
Yeah.
can be honest, I think it's pain. That's what it is.
Okay.
Because you gotta. Like, it's interesting because I remember when Google and Facebook and what was it, Netflix,
Yeah.
all like in somebody's garage in California. I remember those days.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
remember asking what was a Google and what's a Facebook, because those things were presented to us. I'm like, where does this thing go?
Yeah.
But their vision was beyond just them.
Yeah.
right? So their vision was beyond just the garage into a business, into the Silicon Valley market. That wasn't where they saw it going. Where
Right.
they saw it going was domination of a market. And then within that domination, within the pursuit of that domination, they found opportunity
Right.
and they saw other things. So I remember my first time my boss told me the term convergence, and I had no idea what he was talking about. For me, it was a military term. When things combine, you converge and destroy the enemy. But it wasn't about that. Convergence for him was a matter of understanding how you combine audio, video, and audio, visual, and digital into a combined platform that people can utilize.
Yeah.
What he was talking about then, we commonly call a smartphone now.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Right. So in the first time he said it, I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But then when we talked about it more, I kind of saw where he was going, and then you saw little inroads heading that way. And so then you saw a modulation of growth when Yahoo bought broadcast.com and made the gentleman on Shark Tank a billionaire overnight. Mark Cuban. So he made Mark Cuban rich overnight. So they bought broadcast.com. Mark had a vision about a structure about rebroadcasting information. That's all it was. He was taking one medium and transitioning into another medium that they took over and turned into a greater medium. So when Google bought YouTube in its nascent stage, they saw the ability to transmit video. They saw it as an ability to get access to media. They didn't realize it was going to become this overnight sensation based upon one simple concept, which was pretty much people's egos. So because the emotional factor of people to be part of a greater societal push is what drove both the growth of YouTube and the growth of Facebook. Because Facebook was essentially a one-off. And then the growth of social engagement in society is what drove its growth.
Yeah.
Then it both parlayed into now what we call a larger social media construct and a larger social media environment. That was not a predictable model 25 years ago.
No.
That wasn't, but it grew to that. But then as they saw the growth trends, they moved in those directions and stayed in those directions.
Yeah.
So we jump ahead 25 years. We look at AI and ML, and we look at cloud structures, and we look at business analytics and business intelligence.
Yeah.
Well, those are now all combining in its own form of convergence to put together a smarter analysis about where business should be putting its energies and efforts.
Yes.
Sometimes so fast that companies don't make wise decisions, and they kind of like, where are we going with this? And so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today was buy-in.
Good.
Yeah, because buy-in is the most important aspect of selling to a client and achieving your end state as the startup.
Yes.
So
Gotcha.
You think of it as you want the client to buy in what you're selling and offering them. But initially, you got to understand what they have as their vision for buy-in within an organization. So I learned pretty quickly, and one thing is that their no is not always a no. It's a no, not now. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
So I give some case examples. One is I work for a major financial firm. A major financial firm wanted to move forward with building a data lake infrastructure that allowed them to transition information from the cloud across the data lake into a usable format for CRM so they could get better analysis of their customers' trends.
Okay.
But what they hadn't done is internally, they hadn't had the discussion between all the major departments that would be affected by it.
Right. Okay.
And so that created a gap in acceptance in several key areas. So while you have the database and data mining folks saying, this is a great idea, we can make it work, there wasn't an understanding on the security side of, well, what did that structure look like from the in and out and the reception and the constant flow of information and security aspect. So, and that didn't work out for the actual, no kidding, trade and sales side of the house where the actual activity takes place. Because there wasn't an agreement on the internal requirement of what's necessary to execute and to be successful, there were a lot of stopgaps in the original sale. So it's like, okay, we can make this happen for you, but you haven't fixed your security part yet.
Gotcha.
If the security part's not fixed yet, then you're instantly at a threat model
for sure
for your back-end database pieces, which instantly affects your front-end sales pieces.
Yes.
So they literally had to pause, go back and get an internal agreement amongst themselves. Now, technically, when you move forward with that, the original sales took place over a period of 6 to 8 weeks, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the original sale took a period of 6 to 8 weeks to get to an agreement of yes.
Yeah.
But the actual answer should have been no, not yet, because we haven't all agreed and to make that happen. You have to be smart about how to approach your client about that. Are you ready for this particular product to introduce into your sales cycle or into your technology adoption cycle?
Mm-hmm.
Are these
Yeah.
things what you need now? And
Yeah.
y'all have to have a very honest conversation about that so that you know that you're moving in that direction. And what you want to get to is yes.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah. So I think that's a real important point because nothing is an island to itself. It requires this integration of all these other things, and so when you don't have the buy-in from all those other departments, yeah, you're dead in the water.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you have to have, if it's a large corporate entity,
Yeah.
everybody from HR all the way down has got to know what's going on, or have some buy-in of what they got to know what their part is in the bigger, larger piece of the puzzle. And it's
Mm-hmm.
more of a puzzle than a pie, to be honest with you, because they all intersect at different levels. They all
Mm-hmm.
have different processes. So when you want to improve at HR, if you're selling AI technology to somebody to improve their HRM systems, well, what have they already bought? What's the inflection point where the new data takes over, the new data concept takes over from the old data legacy concept, and is everybody on board with the training model that makes it happen? And if you can't answer that question, then you shouldn't be selling to them, and they
Right.
shouldn't be accepting. The best thing you want to do is sit with them and walk through the acceptance process.
Yes.
That
Okay.
way you're
You build.
engaged as you're part of the solution.
Yeah.
So you understand, but you're also part of it. They may invite you to the table, they may not, but you got to be willing to adapt that conversation to get to some form of agreement.
Yeah. So I noticed some like let's say the Y Combinator approach, and with these startups and a lot of these accelerator programs, they're literally have relationships with these large companies, and so when these startups come in, they help them with develop those relationships to kind of understand what the big companies actually need in order to move forward. Because especially with this AI stuff, and listen, it may not just be AI, just could be some technology in general, like people have to buy in and understand. So if you in a big company, if you want to introduce this new technology, but you can't get the corporations from the people out in the field, you're dead in the water.
That's 100% true. And
Yeah.
sometimes they'll make executive decisions because they're like, we got to get on board now. And it's like, well, if you get on board now, what does that mean? Doesn't mean everybody's bought into it.
Right.
And I use a case in point of another corporation I work with. Look, the CTO had gotten laid off. The CFO took over as the project manager, as the project sponsor,
Okay.
but did not buy in to the concept. He
Yes.
was just a shepherd. And so he had no emotional tie or professional tie to the end state. And then you had 5 different other departments, which included finance,
Mm-hmm.
data management folks, the AI team, and HR, who said, okay, it sounds great, but if you have not defined the cross-department alignment up front, because you need to have the cross-department alignment up front, then it is owned only by the people who made the sale.
Yes.
So you're talking to one entity for one execution, and then you don't have a longevity plan built in for you as the supplier or the servicer for that particular company.
Yeah. It sounds like it takes some really good leadership, to know when to, kind of bring stuff in or guide things in and guide all the departments, to work together as a team to make things happen. A lot of synergy.
Yeah, but you got to ask the hard questions. You as the vendor, you got to ask about is this something that's a one-off for you, or is this a long-term plan for you? You got to be brave enough to ask that question, because that will help you work with them on the long-term engagement strategy that you two are trying to build. Now you're trying to build a relationship with the client, but it's a long-term engagement strategy if you ask harder questions, because they're looking at you now saying, okay, you might be the right choice. So I put down another case in point, which is I work with major race car company, and
Okay.
it wanted AI technology to help it read marketing capabilities for all the stickers that are on a car.
Okay.
For every time it goes, they got paid for every time that this particular vehicle demonstrated that particular sticker on television. So they had
Gotcha.
a market to viewability ratio
Gotcha.
for commerce. Here's the problem with that. So it sounded great, and they already had software that could possibly do it, but there wasn't a artificial intelligence capability built around it. So
Mm-hmm.
they were nascent to the capability itself. They didn't even know how to make it work.
Right.
But they partnered with a partner that could do it. They said they could implement it and
Yeah.
make it work. Meanwhile, in the back end, they got a database capability, massive database, video file capability that they had put in place that they wanted to put into a data lake. But none of those were in sync.
Mm-hmm.
None of that was in sync. So they had to build out a main valuable product that could deliver that capability that the company's like, well, we know you can do it. We want you to show you how we could do it. So we're going to build out this example for you to make it happen, which sounded
Mm-hmm.
great on paper, right? But here's the problem set with that. And this is after discovery, after weeks and weeks of working on it,
Yeah.
was that the contract company they were working for was not stable enough to support the contract they were working on with the actual client.
Wow.
So they were the AI ML implementation capability for the client, but they were not soluble enough.
Wow.
So they were bought midterm through the project implementation. So they're not even part of the company that bought them hadn't even signed on the contract to continue the work. So you remove that puzzle piece from the solution set, and now you got this gaping hole.
Big one.
So it came down to pausing it, being smart enough to pause everything
Mm-hmm.
to say, look, you're not ready for this solution. It may work for you over the next few years, but you're not ready for the solution because you don't have an internal structure in place that will make this work. So what would it take for you to make that happen? And that is a simple equation. That was just time. They needed time and energy to go back and reevaluate what they thought was important to make it work.
Yeah.
And you as the vendor got to be smart enough to say, well, I don't think you're there yet. I don't think this is where you need to have. Why don't we revisit this?
Yeah. So like I wanted to ask you, Derrick,
Sure.
but you had said you wanted to show some slides also.
Oh, no, we're past that point. I don't want to end there people's slides.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of how did you get trained or how did you learn about these sales processes? I can tell you learn a lot of things through experience, but you had to have some, something to be able to go out and start trying to sell these companies or whatever on what they were trying to build.
I'd seen enough growth and failure and sustainment to know what some of it looks like.
Yeah.
And the one reason I got into working with AWS was I wanted to learn about cloud technology and the process.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And there was no way I was going to come from being gone for 15 years of doing it to being right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I had enough background in technology, but enough background in global engagement to know how things broke.
Yeah.
So if I knew how things break, which is what my job was, how does it break? And then how do we adjust to that and make it better? Mm-hmm. Then I was able to bring that as a mental framework to the solution side.
Okay.
So not just the technology and the jargon, it was the context. Mm-hmm. The context is where I looked at. It's like, okay, people want solutions. What does it mean when they want a solution? Because I work with countries that wanted solutions. I mean, at the national level, great.
Yeah.
But that solution they wanted didn't make any sense. Okay. Well, I tell people, they wanted water for crystal, but what you really need is this tumbler. You don't really need water for crystal. Because right now, you're not able to handle that. But we can get you there. This is the path how you get there. And so I kind of learned solution paths and the way to look at the problem more than anything else.
Okay.
How to frame the problem and then frame a possible approach to this problem. Yeah. And then learn about and then, of course, you got to understand personalities. Yes. What is the emotional stake of the individual to the situation? Mm-hmm. And if you don't understand that, and you can't feel it, or you can't feel it out, you need to take a pause and realize try to get what their motivation is.
Mm-hmm.
You're not always going to get it. It doesn't always work that way, but you got to try at least. Because if you get it, it means you're 50% of the game ahead of time. You really you are. You got to know. Then you know what your strategic approach is to the discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, if a person's not, he's just the receiver of the information. He's not tied to the solution. Then you're not going to get as far as you think. Mm-hmm. So you don't have a sustainable business model with that particular organization, whether it's Fortune 500 or the guy down the street. You got to know what the motivating factor is.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's pretty neat. So like, so you transitioned from AWS and now you're doing starting off on your own to do some consulting, and I see you got Cloud Mine Solutions there. Tell me what that's all about.
Well, I started Cloud Mine Solutions before the pandemic, before I got the job.
Okay.
So I had to stop. But then I restarted up this past year because I wanted to get into the actual solution building process.
Okay, good.
Not just be a consultant about not just how to what cloud products you should buy, but why you should buy those products. So, or it's the right solution for you, and then turn around and be the implementer, hire people to implement. That's part of one. But Cloud Mine is one aspect. I have another company called Deep Fish Media that was for media, for online media development. It helps build out, because all my friends are creatives, so it's kind of funny. As you know, I was the president of Jazz Society of Pensacola, so all these creative friends I had, and I'm like, well, we do videos like this. Why aren't we doing them like the other, like professionally? And then how do you transition those into stories? And so I love documentaries and I love about music.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So I started several things to try to go. Number one reason was I'd already worked in government, I'd already worked in corporate industry, and I knew corporate industry. I knew private industry was a pursuit for profit. Like, why am I not paying myself versus trying to constantly struggle to work with somebody else? So I figured, why not just take the time and just do it? I know enough, so why not just make it happen?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So you saying you can kind of help an organization understand a path to get to a solution, and then you have the skills to know how to put together a team to kind of implement it.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly right. And then move from there. And my biggest interest right now is figuring out how to find the right path on AI, because there's so many paths you can go down.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the areas I'm looking at and I'm going to dive more into is one of my associates. They work for a medical supply company, but they're trying to figure out how to work with the states to utilize AI in a better process. But the reverse into that, states like China, so why should we do this? Because we feel it's dangerous. Because everybody has a lot of people that don't have enough knowledge about AI think of it as in a Terminator model. And so they don't want it to be the Skynet version of their life. And so they're trying to figure out, why should we expose citizens to this if we feel like they're going to be at risk at some point? And I'm like, oh, but you're presenting the wrong argument. Not why they need it, but ask them why they want to absorb it, why they want to use it. Yeah.
So were you saying states as like United States, or what were you?
Just states like a normal state like Florida or Ohio.
Okay. And
state governments state governments struggle with the concept of why they need to impart this upon people.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, and the AI stuff is pretty challenging. Because even now people think the Gen I stuff is what AI is all about. But I grew up using AI to process data, in weapons and robots, and so it's just so many applications, for AI, and what I found was, and I think it's just a matter of people getting to the point of understanding. So imagine if you had the AI to control a robot, and just like an autonomous vehicle or something. So that's a whole system. So how do you do a whole system for the optimized operation of a company? Suppose they're one little piece of a company, a part of a company, So
Well, I
we
think
still have a long ways to go.
we do. I think that's the one thing I've observed, and I'll just do this geek moment, which was, that I found it Gen AI and other AI products to be flat, right? So they're flat based upon the level of data input and then response. And what
Yeah.
you really want is neuroplasticity. You want have neural capability to say it's true AI so that it grows on its own and that expands on a plasticity level where the brain where it's its own growth pattern of brain activity in a neurological sense. And that
Yeah.
way it's more personable to you rather than a flat use technology component. And I
Yeah.
think you see a lot of that. It's now action and response, right?
Mm-hmm.
What you want is action and engagement.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, that's we still got a ways to go, and there's still a
Yep.
lot of opportunity, and so, but there's so many startups are making money in these niche areas because people are trying to do work, and that niche area that they're struggling with, and the startup comes along and it helps them automate that and make that easier to do. That's still an opportunity. But so it's just you trying to see the market is really big, because it's hard for me to believe that all these startups can come up with so many different unique ways to use AI. It's just amazing to me. That's what opportunity, as a founder, your experiences are unique, and so how do you do something based off your unique experiences? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to pull. I mean, everybody has I've learned in a long term. It's been everyone has ability and some talent, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
question is how do you want to apply that? And I've been blessed to be able to walk through history and see things and be a part of it. But now it's a transition of, okay, what's next? And I got to be smart enough, even in my pursuit, to saying, what do I think is next, and then head down that road. And I think,
Hopefully,
I think everybody has to look. That's why I say you can't. You got to make today's sale, but you got to be thinking about tomorrow's vision.
yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah. So I see JT there. He's especially the medical diagnostic stuff. Yeah. So, but yeah, there's so many great ways to leverage your unique experience. And because to me, and this is what people forget, it's all based on somebody's expertise and knowing what the problem is. And so if you've been working in an area and you got this unique expertise, you're the best one to partner with somebody that knows AI technology to kind of turn that expertise into a revenue stream.
True, but you got to be smart enough about the model. What are
Yeah.
you trying? Because partnerships are great. I've done a lot of them.
Yeah.
Kind of understood two things: is what are you getting out of it? What are you contributing? What is
Yeah.
the off ramp, or what is emerging ramp?
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna. I think what you're gonna see more of in the next 5 years is more merging of companies as things
You have to.
coalesce into actual utilization. Because unfortunately, funding does dry up. It looks
Yeah.
cool now, and it's cheaper now because AI is actually cheap technology compared to chip technology.
Yeah. So all the funding, especially in the United States, is shifting to all this AI stuff, and so a lot of founders out there are getting worried, are stressing, but I think there's ways to apply this technology and improving what you're trying to accomplish with your company. And I
Right.
think that's, to me, you have to develop that level of understanding uh, about that to do. And one other thing you mentioned, Derrick, you sort of hinted on, is like problem solving. In the world of, people who know how to solve problems are the ones who are the most successful. But the deal is, you have to there's certain background and experience that helps you understand how to design an experiment to solve a problem. And I think your background, even though it's strong in implementation and integration stuff, but it sounds like you captured some idea about how to approach a problem and to frame it, in order to kind of get, go after solving the problem. What did
Oh
you
yes.
get? What did you get your degree in? What was your foundation of your learning there?
My bachelor's was in psychology, and then
Okay.
my master's was in. I have two masters. One was in the first one's in management information systems,
Okay.
and then the second one was in strategic studies, which of all of them, I've only applied 10% at any given time,
Okay.
because everything else was learned just by
Experience.
experience and
Yep.
being in those conditions and learning from the engagements that I had both in corporate industry, military, and then
Yeah.
in building even stuff on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing was, and you can never ever disregard the human side of the learning lesson. You've got it.
Yeah.
It's about the partnership that you make. Because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know everything. I learned a lot from people that were super smarter than me, and then I
Yeah.
watched them, and I watched them go through pain, and then I watched them recover from that. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay. And then you learn from that experience. You can't beat that. But I think a lot of it, my skill really falls in the analysis part and then the implementation.
Okay.
The analysis part came just from being in it.
Okay.
And after I did three combat tours, that taught me a lot.
Yeah.
But taught me more was the after effect
Mm-hmm.
and what the larger picture is
Mm-hmm.
and where you fit in the larger picture.
Gotcha.
And then how do you impart or impact that picture? You got to know what that is. Even if you're in a business, it's your business, right? So
Yes.
who are you bringing in to support you on it? How are you gaining and growing that person that you're working with? If it's a partnership, what are you gaining and growing through that partnership? If you're part of a collective, what are you gaining and growing from that? Because those lessons are the ones that will take you forward to growth.
Gotcha.
It's not like look at Bill Gates. The fact is, Bill Gates did not do it on his own. He did it
No.
with a bunch of other guys.
Yes.
And then each one picked their off-ramp point
Mm-hmm.
where they were in the business.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs, exact same thing. He didn't build Apple by himself.
No, absolutely.
Each one was built by, each party, everybody paid their part, and then they picked their off-ramp part.
Mm-hmm.
But they left their part of the business within the business, so it still functioned.
Yes.
So imagine that. So what are you doing with your business, and how do you want it to grow? And who are you taking your information from, and who are you not taking your information from?
Yeah. Well, what right now, what I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, and so anybody that wants to engage and learn, the resources are there, and I think that's the message I've been trying to let people know. And somebody like you with all this knowledge and experience and all these diverse areas, like having a connection with somebody like you to kind of help navigate through some of this stuff is pretty valuable. There are a lot of resources out there, to kind of help move things forward. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. And so like anything I can do to kind of help you with your venture, I'm definitely open to it. Yeah, my so from a problem solving.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely try.
Yeah. Well, so like
I've known you for 10 years. It occurs to me. So it's like,
yeah. Well,
but
yeah,
I've watched you grow and sustain. You've always met.
Yeah.
So
people don't realize, like, I spent my whole career developing technology, and I don't try to do everything myself. I leverage resources. That's really what the key is to kind of moving forward. So and that's what my communication is to people. If founders or people who want to be founders, if you got an idea and you want to pursue it, there's enough resources out there to take you from where you are now to where you want to go. And so that's what's important to kind of people just need to realize that there's opportunity out there to kind of move forward. And people like you are out there that's got this knowledge and can help with advice on stuff, or or whatever. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I learned a lot more about you tonight, Derrick. I didn't realize you had connections with Dell and Texas Instruments and I know you had AWS part and all that stuff. But yeah, that's pretty neat.
It's been an exciting journey along the way, just to be able to say I've done those things. Because they tell you often in my previous profession not to look at your press clippings, and I didn't. But when you have to put it all together about what you used to do and where you come from, I'm always surprised by the things I've been exposed to, and then and the people that I've stayed in contact with over the time, and to watch them grow and change. Like I said, I was very happy to work with my best friend on his consulting. He had a software training consulting firm in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
And it's called, at that time, it was called consultingsolutions.net. And he built it from the ground up. Yes. And he survived all the dot-com burst and the economic changes and everything to go on later to sell his business 20 years later. Mm-hmm. So I've always admired his tenacity through all of it, because it was a ride. But we talked through all of it, every single bit. And from him, I learned some very valuable lessons about you must have a sustainable mind through all of this. And you got to have resiliency in your mind. Yes. Survive all the headaches, because they're going to come.
Oh, for sure.
But you got to be willing to deal with it. And then just know that on the back end, if you do everything you're supposed to do, that you will succeed and you'll be rewarded. So
yeah, you got to get in the game. You can't sit on the sideline.
That's why I decided to jump in. I was like, okay, I can do this.
All righty. So so any parting words you want to leave the audience, and so to kind of help them in their journey?
It's your business, make it your world. That's all I got to say about it.
Your business, make it your world. That's pretty exciting. So I'm looking forward to the future and seeing more great things coming your way, with all this knowledge and excitement. So let's go out there and build something and be great. All right.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you being on, Derrick, and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Sounds great.
All right. Take care, man.